Friday, November 25th, the St. Kitts National Youth Parliament Association and the National Youth Parliament Association of Antigua and Barbuda participated in the inaugural sitting of the Joint Youth Assembly at the National Assembly Chambers at Government Headquarters. Here to tell us about it are Daly, head of the Joint Oversight Committee, and Jalen, Monzac, treasurer. Welcome to Good Morning, SKN.
Thank you.
All right, so she's the head and you're the one who releases the purse strings. Okay, I get it. It's great to have you here. All right, so we want to talk about the exciting event that just took place.
Indeed.
What were some of the highlights for you?
One of the highlights was the joint youth assembly, which was held on Friday at the National Assembly Chambers, where we debated a number of legislative items, which included the Age of Majority Act, the establishment of a health select committee, and also
promoting efficiency within the civil service through the Integrity and Public Life Act. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you learn a lot in preparing to present this information?
Yes, of course. Each time SKN does a parliament sitting, this is not the first parliament sitting that we've done. This is the first time we've done a joint one, but we usually do one in November. And a lot of preparation happens like months in advance. So for months we've been pondering on the topics that we would need to do. We did a lot of research, we listened on the ground to see what is the conversation right now. And those are some of the topics that we came up with. And there was intensive research done. I was also a debater as well. And I debated on the age of majority, so I have a lot of information in terms of that. So I did learn a lot coming off of that joint sitting. Some other highlights that we had was, of course, the Antiguans, interacting with them. They came in on Wednesday in the afternoon, and we were up at the airport to receive them, and we organized masqueraders and steel pan to welcome them. So it's like just condition side. So just seeing everybody just being so excited about that, and even some of the passengers that came off the plane, they were like, "Oh wow." You know, they enjoyed it. And I know that we did set the trend in terms of those kind of welcoming people to St. Kitts. So I'm sure that somewhere along the line you'll see more masqueraders and more of those things there. And, you know, just generally interacting with the Antiguans, they were so amazing, sharing the similarities that we have in terms of problems and finding solutions for just general things like, for example, water shortages. They have water shortages over there, we have it over here. So, you know, that was really great.
Yes, and the parliament sitting was just one aspect of the joint agreement between both associations. And it all started when Kamali Mannix was the president of the National Youth Parliament of Antigua and Barbuda. He came to St. Kitts in 2017 for the CPA, the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association's Youth Parliament sitting. And when he came, you know, he saw what SKN was about, and he wanted to replicate something similar in Antigua, which was like a youth parliament association, which is independent from the government. So he was successful in doing so in 2019, and the NYPAB was launched. And last year, when he was on island, he spoke with the president, which is Mauriel Knight, to create a joint agreement between both associations. So the agreement calls for joint parliament sittings, joint socials, joint networking, and joint training. And it also calls for a joint committee, which I'm a part of. So the JOC, so the agreement was signed on February 5th, virtually, by virtual means, because we were both in different countries. And the JOC began work since March in planning the sitting. So it's been many months of planning and organizing, and I'm just happy that it came to fruition.
No, I can tell. All right, so you mentioned joint training, Cara. Give us a sense of what that training would look like for you.
Well, different parliamentary procedures, different aspects. So when they came to Ireland on Wednesday, we had a joint training on the Thursday in the National Assembly chambers. So we had training on the Integrity and Public Life legislation, and we also had training on parliamentary procedures, because the parliamentary procedures in St. Kitts differ slightly from that in Antigua. So we had to make sure that we were all on the same page as to what would happen the next day. And different things in terms of public speaking, other, life skills.
Yes, so we have
beneficial to
both organizations have robust training committees.
Yes.
So the idea is to have that collaboration between the two organizations. As Cara said, in terms of parliamentary procedures, in terms of debating, public speaking, etc. So you have some pictures there. And
I recognize somebody.
and another, just to add another highlight was we did courtesy calls to the ECCB, where we met the deputy governor, and a lot of ideas for collaboration came out. One thing was a regional youth, well, OECS youth parliament, I think, just involving other youth parliaments across the region. And what we plan as the joint oversight, or the two associations, is to involve other youth parliaments within the region. So, for example, we've already started engagements with Monzac Youth Parliament. We've started engagements with Antigua Youth Parliament, and I think there are some other youth parliaments that we are looking at getting involved in this, so that we can foster that regional integration, that cooperation, and that's great stuff.
Yes, and the joint sitting was held in St. Kitts this year for the inaugural one, and next year we're scheduled to go to Antigua, so it would alternate between countries every year.
Yes.
You spoke about integrating with the other islands. Why is it important for you to debate in Parliament on the issues that their country is facing?
Well, firstly, we share some of the same issues, and the more persons that are involved in, say, for example, a debate, gives teeth to what we're trying to bring out with SKN, especially what we try to do is raise awareness to certain issues. So, for example, we have the Asian majority where you can be 16 and consent to sex, yet you can access medical health care, you can access sexual health care. So we want to raise that awareness so that those persons listening, in terms of government officials, decision makers, that they can see what is happening there. So being able to involve more people from different organizations, which also have their own path or their own influence in their own communities, it gives greater voice to what we're trying to bring across.
And individually as well, I mean, if there's small, pockets of noises around, if you all come together and make one collective voice, I mean, it makes a greater impact than us being able to make a change or whatever we're trying to achieve.
Definitely so, and I think with the similarities that you guys described, it would be helping to raise awareness in more of a unified way.
Right.
I'm curious to know about any potential interactions that you had with the Deputy Prime Minister after the engagement. Did you have interactions with him? Did he say anything to you about the presentations?
Well, I know that he was at the sit-in. I saw him in the audience, and he was there for quite some time, as well as the youth minister as well, Honorable Iselin Philip. I know that there was just some light interactions, if I can recall. I was debating, so I was just all over the place. But I did see that there was some light interactions, and he interacted with the Antiguans and welcomed them to St. Kitts. And Honorable Jeffrey is our founding father, so we do have one of them. So we do have him in our context. So we do plan to push some of these things even further by, for example, publishing a policy paper to suggest to, for example, the Asian majority that this is something that needs to be done. This is SKN's position on this, and lobbying for that. So the interactions with Honorable Jeffrey he usually attends our things. He usually supports us regardless. Yes, he loves us.
He's very proud.
Exactly. His statement expressed that. He was very proud. And the similarities, again, jumped out. It's like, similar problems, Antigua, St. Kitts and Nevis, so I imagine it's going to be the same thing with the OECS once you get there.
Right.
So, Jalen, I see you were one of those persons who debated. How did they choose who would debate in this parliament? How did your association choose?
Well, firstly, we had to ensure that there was persons from St. Kitts and persons from Antigua. So they would just put out a call to members to ask them if they're interested in being a part of it. And for most of it, we didn't have any difficulties in getting persons. They were just like, okay, I'm willing to do it. So they didn't have to go through any selection process or anything, because they're part of the youth parliament and those kind of things. And then for Antigua, the same thing. They would have suggested who they want to bring. What we had would have had representation on the government with a mixture of Antigua and St. Kitts. So it wasn't just like St. Kitts on one side and Antigua on the other side. It was Maurel was the prime minister, actor, yeah, Prime Minister.
Future Prime Minister already. You guys are the future.
Yeah, he was the Prime Minister, and the Kamali Mannix, the
Yes.
president, was the
Yes.
leader of the opposition, and it was just a
nice,
mixture.
nice.
So there was lots of collaboration, cooperation, all kind of things happening there.
And even the clerk and deputy clerk.
Right,
The
yeah,
clerk
yes.
was from Antigua and the deputy clerk from
Seeing
St.
it, yes.
It's real integration.
And then the night before, the Thursday night before, all of us was at the guest house, and we were there, preparing our speeches, bench meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a lot of integration happening.
All right, so we know about the work. We got a little insight into the planning. What about the after party or the engagement? You know there had to be something.
Okay, so immediately following the sitting, we journeyed over to Nevis. So they got a little taste of Nevis life. And we came back to St. Kitts and we had a joint social. So we played board games and interacted.
I really love the Nevis trip. I've gone to Nevis so many years. I'm actually from Nevis. My people are from Nevis, so I would usually go for Culturama. The farthest I would go is Cotton Run, but I actually got to go around the island and I was so amazed. I was like, wow, we are missing a lot. Like, I don't feel that we appreciate what we have here.
Oh, nice.
It was like, I was mind blown. I was absolutely mind blown. I was like, I didn't know all this happening up in Nevis. I didn't know it was so pretty Nevis. It was like,
And we got to dip our feet in the hot bath as
Oh,
well.
nice. Every time I go, I try to do that. I love Nevis.
And there's also opportunities for growth, especially within tourism. I don't think that we are capitalizing on the things that we have in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Well, they're listening to you.
Yeah.
So how great of an impact do you hope functions like this would have on the development of our country?
Okay, that's a very good question. Well, our hope is that anything that we do, whether it is SKN or the Youth Parliament of Antigua and Barbuda, that we are listened, that we are heard. So the impact, sometimes, you may not see the impact right now, but at some point in time, if we continue to lobby, we continue to advocate and to talk about these things and bring these issues to the forefront for the lawmakers of today to see, at some point in time, they will understand that this is something that needs to be placed on the table. So we will continue as SKN as a joint oversight youth parliament. We'll continue to do what needs to be done in terms of advocating, in terms of listening, in terms of researching whatever issues, and we'll just continue to be in their faces until we are heard. And I know we will be heard.
Any final thoughts, Cara?
No, I'm just happy that we were able to execute it as planned. I mean, there were a few delays in the planning. We had to push it back a little, by a few months. And, we had to, it was less timing, but we had a jam-packed schedule and tried to get a lot covered during their short visit. And I look forward to next year in Antigua.